Hello, my name is Hunter Spencer, and thank you for joining us today. We'll be talking a little bit about Wacker and its chemical operator. Chemical operators are very important to most chemical plants, but specifically to Wacker, we'll be talking about daily task, education, and education that you can take advantage of after you've completed your courses at Chattanooga State or wherever else that you're training. Let's go ahead and take a look at daily task. Daily task of a chemical operator will depend on the specific area. However, some general statements that can be said about a chemical operator is that you'll be checking pressure, temperature, flow, and level. Pressure and temperature often go hand in hand. When pressure increases, often temperature increases. When pressure decreases, often temperature will decrease. Some things that will alter pressure include cracking a pipe, motors malfunctioning, and the vapor pressure of your liquid if you're dealing with distillation. Some things that can alter temperature include the amount of steam, the amount of coolant, temperature of starting product, and the weather if you are subjected to that. Flow and level are very much related. However, they're not like temperature and pressure where they will increase whenever the other one increases. We can see some fluctuations as to when we're talking about flow and when we're talking about level. Given the scenario that 20 gallons per minute is supposed to be going into one side of a tank and 20 gallons per minute is supposed to be taken out of the other, we should see no fluctuation in level. However, if we see it rising, we can say that A, enough is not being taken out, or B, too much product is being taken in. We can come up with the reason as to why our level is going up. We can also have blockages in pipes, but that's given on the scenario. Oftentimes, flow is not really an indication that a chemical operator will have upon himself to check all the time. A lot of times that'll be in controls. So, an indication of level is a great way to tell whether or not our flow is high or low on either side. Let's go ahead and take a look at some education that's involved. With the chemical operator, you have basically two types of education that is required by Wacker. One of which is the high school diploma, and the other is at Chat State, an associate's program that Wacker has designed for all their chemical operators. Now, the high school diploma will give you your basics of science, literature, and mathematics. I myself actually took pre-calculus in high school and had to take it at Chat State again. Go figure. But back to education. Wacker's program at Chat State is basically broke down into 4 different elements: chemistry, physics, electricity, but most of all, industry. Now, I'm just going to touch on industry just because that is the most important factor in our job. And industry can pretty much be summarized in do your job. That's it. Do your job. And really there's no explanation, but I'm going to explain it anyways. When a chemical operator gets on his site, he checks what I had talked about earlier: temperature, pressure, flow, and level. That's it. If a valve goes bad and a chemical operator takes it apart, looks at it, tries to fix it, he is not doing his job. He is not doing what was trained by him. He is no way, form, or fashion trained to operate on any valves that are broken. So therefore, he's not doing his job. He's not doing what industry requires. He's not doing what Wacker is requiring. So therefore, we have learned through this grueling 4 semesters that we are supposed to do our job and only our job, which is a very important and very simple lesson that we can learn. And if we can follow that lesson, we can improve safety and productivity in our work environment. And that's what Wacker is really looking for. Let's go ahead and look at some continuing educations that you can take advantage of after you finished your Wacker education at Chat State. After you finish Wacker's program, you will more than likely either A, work for Wacker, or B, you'll go back to school for your continued education. Now, going back to school would include you going to a university and some education that you can take advantage of, but not limited to this list, would be chemical engineering, electrical engineering, and civil engineering. Electrical engineers are based into two different types of groups, electrical and electronic. Electrical converts electricity into a fuel or into a power substance that would be required for a part of a process. Electronic often refers to a smaller scale, or computers, or something else that uses a circuit board or a smaller device that uses electricity. Both of these work with electricity, just on different scales. Chemical engineers are based into two different groups, chemical process engineers and chemical product engineers. Chemical process engineers often control the variables that a chemical operator, like I said earlier, the temperature, pressure, flow, and level, the indicators for those would be set by the chemical engineer. The chemical engineer would be trying to satisfy safe conditions along with productivity. We don't want unsafe conditions by increasing productivity, but we don't want to decrease productivity just for safety issues. We want to have an awesome balance for both in order to satisfy both the OSHA standards and our bosses. The product engineer is often referred to an inventor or a tester. This person would make new substances to increase productivity or to decrease the amount of money spent on a process. So they would go in to create something else to allow a process engineer to then use it to increase productivity or decrease the amount of money paid. Civil engineering is a huge field that you could go into. Now, as far as Wacker is concerned, I'm not really sure if they would want you to go into a civil engineering. You would need to check with Wacker before you did so. But it is something else you can go into after you've done your chemical operating education. Civil engineering can include everything from creating dams to roads to even buildings, to upkeep on those dams, upkeep on roads, and upkeep on buildings. These people are very lucrative and can change their job based on their education just because it covers such a huge topic. Now, like I said earlier, with Wacker, I'm not real sure how they would be able to implement a lot of civil engineers just because it is more chemically and electricity based, but no hurt in trying, right? Thank you for joining me today, talking a little bit about chemical operators and the job details in monitoring pressure, temperature, flow, and level. A little bit about our education and how we're severely and utterly screwed in our heads that we need to only do our job and nothing but our job, and some career opportunities, or excuse me, some educational opportunities that you can take after you're done with your chemical operating program, such as electrical engineers, chemical engineers, and some civil engineers. To Ms. Lux, thank you so much for allowing me to make this video. It was actually pretty cool to go back and to my high school and film all this. The green screen's kind of distracting, but it is what it is. And to those that are going to be chemical operators, I can't wait to get in there and work with you, and I can't wait to get in this plant and let's start this thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Can